Barrigan Perea with Delta Flows, a radio show by the Voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune into Delta Flows on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
Hey, it's Details from KXVS, and from all of us at the Voice of Stockton, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
KXVS LP Stockton.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
This is KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, and it's time for the Tom Patti Reality Show with your host, Tom Patti.
Thank you, Governor Don. Before we even get into the show, I got to say, there is a disclaimer before my show begins. I love it. Now, I'm not controversial, Governor Don. I've certainly not reached any controversial status on air, have I?
No, so we started incorporating that for all the shows just to make sure that, the station is acknowledged as a separate entity from the programs.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it. So it's not just me.
No, sir, it's everybody.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit relieved, but perhaps disappointed. So, welcome.
Rebel Radio, Tom Patti.
Welcome, everybody, and happy holidays. I am Tom Patti, one of your county supervisors, and this is the Tom Patti Reality Show, where we talk about everything local, political, current, and real. And thank you all for joining us today. Ted, I'm sitting on this table looking across from you, Ted Lehrer, my trusty sidekick here, and I see on this monitor, did you go to a tanning booth and spend like an hour? You are beet red. This is the holiday thing? Would you wanted to get tanned? There's a new gal in your life you wanted to get covered?
No, I'm just in the holiday spirit. I want to look as festive as possible. I want to look as joyful and as joyous as possible. Well, just because whenever I walk into the room, it's like the whole room lights up because I'm just a ball of a holiday cheer. Remember, not Christmas cheer, but holiday cheer. We keep it inclusive on the Tom Patti Reality Show.
You are beet red full of cheer. So however you accomplish that, buddy, I encourage everybody to go on line and look at you because you are beet red right now. And I hope you're well. Put some aloe lotion on or whatever, but less time in the tanning booth, please.
Okay, can I throw a disclaimer, Tom?
Yes.
That is our camera. We had a camera go out, so we haven't adjusted the color on that one yet. So, Rosy Ted.
All right. Well, he still's got a red glow to him. I think he's been in the tail. I think he's got a new girlfriend in his life, so he's spending time in the tanning booth. I want to
be like Rudolph, but what's interesting is everybody, Rudolph complained that people laughed and called him names, but it's my understanding that Santa Claus has a strict anti-bullying policy, so I don't know how that's even possible.
Well, listen, it is the holiday season, and if you're in the spirit of it, that's great. I want to jump right into welcoming our guest today. And we've got a good friend of mine, and a phenomenal advocate and community participant, and he just got promoted to the to the president of Grupe Real Estate. Yes. And because there's different divisions of Grupe, right? Mm-hmm. But we have Michael Blauer, and he's also a former Stockton Council member. So I'm really glad that, and we're brother Rotarians. So I'm really glad that you could join us, Michael. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. Oh, it's great to be here.
Yeah, and is this your first time on the station?
First time on, yeah.
Well, all the other hosts have missed out, especially our Julie Dameron, our fellow Rotarian, because I know you're, as involved as you are in the community. I appreciate that, and glad to have you in the studio.
We've had several episodes, but we feel very privileged that you are our final guest for 2017.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm glad to be here.
That's it, buddy. So tell me a little bit about where are you at right now? I know you just finished up a stint as Stockton City Council. Well, how was that experience for you?
Well, it was a great experience. I mean, I really feel blessed that I got the opportunity to serve. I was appointed last February, And boy, that in itself was quite an experience.
Oh, it's a marathon to get there and to earn the opportunity and speak the issues and to have a great presentation about yourself, where you're at, what you're all about. That selection process alone is it's a challenge.
Well, I saw an article in the paper the other day that Roger Phillips had written about when they were talking about the Swenson Golf Course issue, and he referred to it as a marathon session that got done at 11. And
right.
I just sort of chuckled, 11, geez. When I got appointed that night, oh boy, I mean, the meeting started at your normal meeting time. I think it was the 23rd of February. I was very fortunate. I made it through and got appointed by the council, but I wasn't appointed until like 1:10 the next day.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So you want to talk about a marathon session?
Those are long earned sessions, and then serving as council, being as engaged in the community as you currently are and were all during that process. I mean, it's a serious commitment of time and energy and effort to not only be involved but be instrumental in where we are and what we need to do next.
Yeah, it was a huge commitment, but I love Stockton. I'm a Stockton guy. I've been here my whole life.
Yeah.
I wanted to give back, but I do look at I look at just my personal business. I am a real estate broker, so while I'm the president at Grupe, I still sell houses. I mean, that's my bread and butter, and I did about a sixth of the business that I normally do. I mean, it was
really
a big hit to my business.
Yeah.
But you knew that going in,
right?
And you know as well as I do that campaigning just takes a huge amount of time.
Campaigning and just participating. I mean, there's so many nonprofits. There's probably 100 nonprofits locally. So, and everybody's got an event every week. There's events somewhere.
Every week, every day.
Just being present and asking to donate and buy and dinners and stuff. I mean, it is a serious commitment and
you and I would run into each other all kinds of
regularly. Regularly. So. That's but that's the fun challenge part. I mean, you are there, you're engaged, you're present, and you're part of the organizations that are working to make a difference. And I know you were a great example of that.
I also want to thank you again for all the wet naps after the crab feeds.
Yeah, that was when I was on the campaign trail. I thought, here's something nobody's going to do, and I walked around with boxes of the wipes, so hand wipes, and let people have wipes.
And that was the difference right there between defeat and victory in November of 2016. Was you handing out these hand wipes at crab feeds?
Well, people remember that, and my 5-year-old daughter running around giving little candy mints and being as adorable as she was.
Maybe that's where I went wrong.
I was just going to say
more handy wipes,
more kids.
You need to call Steve Reed on the phone right now and say, "Where were my damn?"
If I ever run again, handy wipes will be.
And you got to rent about a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
If you can get a 5-year-old, that's like such a sweet age and adorable, and so if you can go to like a homeless shelter or something and get a 5-year-old and bring them around with you and show them a better way of life, give them be like a big brother for them, that'd work perfect for you.
So what would you say is your, we were talking about your service on city council, and it was almost a year, so let's call it 12 months.
Sure.
You did accomplish a lot in those 12 months. Unfortunately, you were not successful, but you ran a very clean campaign. I know you were friends with Belen's family, and Susan has had very positive things to say about you, both while she was campaigning against you and subsequently after the election, and you had a really good transition. But when you were on the city council in 2016, what would you say are your top 2 or top 3 biggest successes that you can recall off the top of your head?
Sure. I feel real good about the Fair Oaks Library. I think reopening that library, I just think literacy is such an important thing in our community. I mean, if you can get the literacy rates up, it's going to help so many other problems. Reopening that library, I felt, was the right thing to do. I know that promises had been made to that area of town.
Sure,
that,
absolutely.
When it was closed.
And the challenges were still there.
Oh, yeah.
That neighborhood had not transitioned to a better place where it didn't need that type of facility and the operations there. So,
and I felt really good about Measure M. I mean, I had a good feeling that was going to pass. The polling that had been done, I mean, it looked like it was really going to go well.
Right. For those who may not recall exactly what Measure M was, that was the Strong Communities and Libraries initiative. Was it quarter-cent sales tax or an eighth-cent sales tax?
Quarter-cent.
Quarter-cent sales tax that goes to fund library, literacy, and recreational programs. And yes, the City Council did vote to place it on the ballot, and then the voters had to vote to approve it, which they did. And I know you, and along with many of your then colleagues, and your friends in the business community, were supporting passage of that measure. And that's it was very encouraging to see the voters support that initiative.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of extra taxes, but I think with something that important, I was glad that the people had the option to decide for themselves, and I'm glad they made the decision they did.
Yeah, I agree, and that was. You saw it open up, and it's had a profound impact since, so it's great.
And I was at a meeting of the Measure M Oversight Committee, their first meeting that they held just 2 weeks ago, and already we're seeing the dividends of the initiative that you discussed, where there are longer library hours already, and the 7 commissioners are already discussing where that money should be directed here in the city of Stockton. So very good initiative that you voted to put on the ballot, and thank you for campaigning to pass it.
So the vote that I was talking about, though, that I was really proud of was the vote to reopen that Fair Oaks Library. And one of the highlights this year for me was going to the ribbon cutting when they did the grand opening.
Sure. And I know Christina Fugazi, that's in her district, if I'm not mistaken. Is Christina
Fugazi was a champion.
She was instrumental in that, but that's her district as well.
That is District 5. That is her
District 5.
Constituency. And she was, obviously, she was from the beginning, even before she was elected, she was campaigning on reopening Fair Oaks, along with Motek, Patrick Sanchez, Ted Gonzalez, Steve Bohorkas, a number of people who have shows on this radio station were vital in
and outspoken for the support
very
of it.
outspoken, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was money well spent and a good decision, even though it was a challenge and some people there was voices on both sides, but it was a good decision for you guys.
I'd say other decisions I'm pleased with and was proud of. We were able to come to terms with the Stockton Police Officers Association, and one of the big issues that was has faced the city was retention of our police officers. I mean, we have some of the best. Stockton is a very, very busy department, so our officers get a lot more experience than, say, people in other areas.
A lot more risk, a lot more exposure, a lot more stress, a lot more demands.
And just the volume of calls that they take.
Yeah.
So that makes them very attractive, and other places come and take away our officers. Being able to give them the raise that we were able to, and keeping being fiscally responsible about it, I felt very good about that.
Yeah, and the police chief, I remember having a conversation with him and asking that for a trained officer to replace that person, it's a $180,000 investment per. Just for the training process and get them ready to serve the community. So to retain them is very wise versus replacing and having a revolving door of those that were losing in neighboring communities for not much of a difference. So it was great and to take action and not regard for our local officers. So another good move. So it was much appreciated by them and the community.
So those are the two kind of bigger, splashier things that come to mind. The other thing that I think about is some of the littler things. I really liked, I look at kind of a parallel between what my job is. As the president of Grupe Real Estate, my agents come to me with their problems, and I help them find solutions. And I was able to kind of use those skills as a council member. I enjoyed having the people be able to call me and have issues. Once a month, I would do an office hour, and so I would be out in the public.
Talking to your constituents
to the constituents.
Sure.
And I enjoyed that. I had several people, and it's funny because you think of it as a totally thankless job, which at times it is, but I had several people that I helped, and I got these really nice
that's the rewards
letters and cards that really appreciated my help. So that was cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It's wonderful when you're able to bridge a gap and fill a void for somebody and help out. That's the little rewards that you're doing, and you're able to help somebody in the community. So there's there's challenges abound. I mean, there's issues that you're always going to have to deal with, but it's those personal connections that are going to pay off. Now, leadership's something you've been part of for a while, and you and I are, as I mentioned earlier, are both Rotarians. You're a past president.
Yeah, past president
of Rotary. How long have you been a member?
I joined Rotary in 2002.
Okay.
It was actually my dad's year as president.
Okay. So you're pretty young fella.
Yeah, relatively. Definitely for the club.
It had to be. Well, we're in the downtown club, which is one of the more senior and larger clubs in the region.
How many members?
We hover around 180, almost 200, right about. It's one of the largest in the region.
Sure.
So, and pretty proud to say, actually, Dr. Elizabeth Blanchard was selected as our not Rotarian of the Year, I'm sorry, as Stocktonian of the Year. And obviously, Julie Dameron was right there in top consideration, and support her so much. But and then Fred Wybill last year, these are both former Rotarians,
Right.
and so you see that people that whether you're in Lions Club or Kiwanis or Rotary, we are involved in the community, making a difference, and there's a commonality. So so your leadership in past, whether it be your service organizations and in your profession and in city council, it's you're building a strong resume. Really proud of you.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was talking to my wife probably about this time last year after the election was done. And I had sort of cleared the decks. I'm past president of the Central Valley Association of Realtors. And so last year I was immediate past president. So I was still on the CVAR board. I was on the board of directors of the California Association of Realtors. All that was going to drop off. I hadn't taken on any leadership because I was anticipating that I was going to win my election and I'd be serving on the council this year. So I'm sitting there with Tiffany and talking to her, and I said, boy, it's really going to be weird next year. I don't have anything lined up. I'm not going to be doing anything. And she just laughed and said, yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. So,
and then right away, of course, you're our serving president for the Stockton Dads Club.
So I agreed to that. Yeah, I'm also the co-leader of the North Stockton 4-H.
I was just going to ask about that. I want to share a little bit about both those organizations, please, and what you're doing in both.
Sure. So the Stockton Dads Club, and Tom and I are in that together. Great organization for dads and their kids. Now,
no moms.
Yeah. No moms.
No moms.
It's an offshoot. What it originally came out of was the Y Adventure Guides. And Y Adventure Guides was a program through the Y, but it only went up to, I think, 5th grade. And so for people like me, I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old daughter. They're in 7th and 8th grade. We would have been long done.
Yeah.
And there was sort of a twofold situation there where you had some people, the Y wasn't really being as involved with us as we would have liked. And then you had guys like me our kids were aging out anyway, that we decided, we're having so much fun together and it's such a good opportunity to spend good quality time with the dads and their kids that, we wanted to keep it going. So we did. And we still do, as we do all these
monthly events, seasonal. Events. We just did the Christmas party, but pumpkin carving. We had a big camp out, which was resounding success and fun. Mm-hmm. And did I mention no moms?
You mentioned it a short while ago.
But here's the good part of it. It gives moms a break. It lets them, because they're so busy full time taking care of kids and micromanaging and doing the lion's share of the work. It gives us dads an opportunity to be responsible for our kids. We're going to serve vegetables. We're going to make sure they're getting 3 square meals. It's not going to be candy and junk food. It's our time to be with them, engage in when we're camping, we're hiking, we're fishing, we're playing games, we're bonding, and it's very good time and valuable time spent with our children.
So funny story about our last camp out. It was at Lehrer the Bear, which is a campground owned by the UC Berkeley Alumni Association.
Yep.
And up there in was that
Pinecrest? Pinecrest, yeah.
And we went, and it was in that was in September.
I think later September, mid to late September,
which was a different time than we've done. And oh my gosh, the first night,
survival night.
It was, we were freezing our tails off. My daughters and I all huddled together, and we weren't quite prepared for the cold. And the next morning, we all loaded up in Tom's vehicle, the Tahoe, and we headed down the hill.
Went down the mountain to Walmart, and we loaded up with space heaters and blankets and
electric blankets.
You name it, because it was survival camp. And I don't know how some of the dads didn't go with us. I know. Survive, because I did not sleep a wink, not 1 minute the night before, until 5:30 in the morning. I figured we're going to be okay. I watched that movie Mount Everest, where the people, they fall asleep and their frostbite and noses and ears fall off. I could only imagine my daughters daughter's mother, and any mother, carrying on, I'm checking my daughter's nose and her ears, because it was sub-zero. It was sub-30. It was sub-freezing.
Yeah.
It was in the 30, 28, 29 degrees, whatever it was. And so I just kept thinking. And by the way, the next weekend it was like 40s at night. Yeah. It popped right back up there. So I kept checking on my daughter all night long, putting hats on her and covering her, and kept disturbing her while she was sleeping quite peacefully. But so it was cold, uncomfortable, but it was worrisome for some dads like me. So so it was a good trip down the hill to buy some
down the hill.
Some provisions and some blankets and layers.
So I assume an overnight trip in Minnesota or Wisconsin or Canada is probably off limits, because it does get below 0 degrees outdoors there.
Yeah, but you're prepared for that. If you're in those environments, you know it and you're prepared. And there's times for camping and there's times for not so much camping.
Yeah.
So we're on the twilight. We were the last weekend. They stayed open for us an extra week.
Oh, wow.
Up at the Pinecrest
Lair of the Bear.
Unfortunately, this next year we've already got dates set in, I think, August.
Yeah, that's going to be spectacular fun.
It'll be better.
Yeah, and so I encourage everybody that listens and is an active, engaged dad, as there are so many. But Stockton Dads Club, look for it. You can find us. How can you find us? We have a presence on social media?
We do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
They can probably get there. If somebody out in the audience is interested, they want to contact me, they're welcome to do that.
Excellent.
You want me to give out my
sure. Give out
so
info.
You can pop me an email, michael@michaelblauer.com, and I'd be more than happy to get you information.
And then find us through Facebook and send a message in that you'd like to join. Do we have an interactive Facebook page?
Well, our Facebook page is a closed group, so you have to
ask.
You have to ask. So if you ask, I can put you in there.
Good.
One of the things to know about the Stockton Dads Club that's kind of attractive to a lot of people, it's sort of an a la carte deal. So it's not like some membership application you got to fill out and you got to join. It's pretty much come to the events that you want to come to.
True. And we have, in this coming year, in 2018, my daughter Presley will be the defending undefeated Pinewood Derby race champion.
Oh, right.
So we have a dad's division, and pretty much the rules are very thin. And there's weights, but you can have modified wheels, and you can do all sorts of modifications to your pine block derby car. But the kids ones, we adhere to basic Cub Scout rules, and so we have that's great fun, and that's different age categories, lots of trophies, lots of winnings, and I'm proud to say Presley, who worked on her car with me, we did it as a project together, but she went completely undefeated last year and took overall first.
And she's the defending first place champion.
She is
going into 2018. That's incredible.
We have a 4-foot trophy. You should have seen her carrying that to school, and she was I won it, and she was so proud. And
don't forget, she also won first place in the coloring contest of the Thanksgiving themed coloring.
The turkey shoot.
The turkey shoot. Yes.
Yeah. And she won her division. There's only a couple shooters in that division, but she got it.
Yeah, the turkey shoot was funny this year. It was the first time we'd brought it back in a couple of years.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's the first time we've done it as the Stockton Dads Club. It was an event that came from the Y Adventure Guides.
Y Guides, yeah.
And so it wasn't a huge, it was a decent turnout.
We all had fun.
But every kid either took, there was no more than 3 kids in a division.
Right.
So
everybody got a ribbon.
First, second, or third place.
Yeah. There was no broken hearts there that day.
But I will say, my daughter Caroline, her score, the only score in terms of even in the dads, the only one to beat her was you by 1 point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She shot good, that good?
So if she was in the dads division,
I took first in the dads division, by the way. Yeah, I did.
I didn't compete. I didn't,
Yeah, her score was that high? She did good?
She did.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. She's a shooter, a little Annie Oakley.
Now, it is 4 days before Christmas Eve and 5 days before Christmas, and every year you do something, Michael, you do something called Caroling for Cans.
Yes.
What exactly is Caroling for Cans?
So that leads into the other group that I'm involved with this year. Last year was actually our first year in 4-H.
Okay.
And 4-H, you typically would think of that as being a pretty agricultural kind of
club.
I mean,
which is a wonderful program.
Yeah, great program through the UC system.
Sure.
You'd think, you get in there and you raise a goat or something like that.
Yeah.
But there is actually, and there's not a whole lot of them, but they do have city clubs. And so we have the North Stockton 4-H. So we're a city club. We meet once a month, and usually the first Wednesday of the month, we meet at at Brookside Elementary School.
Okay.
And we get together and then we talk about the projects. And so you'll enroll your child in whatever project they're interested in. Now, my daughters, last year, Catherine, my youngest, she did cooking because she was interested in that. She did sewing, and she was all excited about sewing. For her birthday, she wanted a sewing machine.
How about that?
Caroline, my oldest daughter, she did a photography class. So Lester Lowe, he taught the photography class. So
how about that?
It was a really good class. But the one they both did that really stood out in my mind was the speech and demonstration. So both kids, and it was funny, in one of the early meetings, I had Caroline make an announcement, I think for last year's Caroling for Cans, and she was not pleased with Daddy, putting her on the spot where she had to talk. She was, pretty nervous and all that. Sure. At the end of one year of that speech and demonstration, I mean, she took on a leadership role, and she speaks at every meeting now. And it's just great skills.
Isn't that outstanding?
Catherine is, she's the treasurer this year, so she gives a report at each meeting. So yeah, it's remarkable. Now we do have a couple of, sort of agricultural related. We do have a chicken project.
Okay.
So somebody really wants to get that. But the nice thing too with the 4-H is, let's say you do have a kid that is interested in that ag. There are other clubs in the area that if they have room, they're more than happy to
join in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outstanding. And moms are allowed.
Yeah,
in 4-H,
moms are allowed.
right? Okay, good. Not to be mistaken with Stockton Dad's Club. No moms.
Right, of course.
Now, as this year's leader, I'm not quite as hardcore on the no moms for the most part, but we do like the Christmas party. That's the one that,
of course,
that and the Pine Car Derby.
Pine Car Derby, moms are there to watch and cheer for the kids. So that's true. So we've got Ted.
Heavily in our local community in the last couple of weeks or so, maybe the past 3 weeks, the proposed redevelopment of Swenson Park. Supervisor Patti, do you have you been following this?
I have. It's Supervisor Miller's
district.
Correct. So I know she's involved to some degree. Obviously, it's right in her backyard. But just as a community resident, I'm interested. My daughter's at a First Tee program that's over at Swenson's, and there's like 50 kids in that program. It's very active right now. It's 50 plus kids, and it's a great youth program. So Michael, as a real estate person, and you're not the developer, but you handle and work with inventory and supply and demand, and also as a former city council member, how do you feel about this? There was the Van Buskirk, there was Swenson's, there's issues of housing and supply and development, and of course keeping recreation available to the population. Van Buskirk is it has restrictions of use. You cannot turn that into a housing project. That's land was donated by
the Van Buskirk family.
By the Van Buskirk family. So, but Michael, please weigh in on that. What's your thought or opinions on this?
Well, I'd say one of the benefits of if there are some benefits of not winning my election is I don't have to get in the middle of some of these contentious issues. But I do have, some thoughts on that. I would sure hate to see all of that paved over and put houses in there. I think the impact on Lincoln Unified, you really have to weigh that in.
Sure.
I think that would, obviously Tom Uslan was there at the meeting and was very opposed to it.
Yeah.
I can see, there are definitely two sides to this. It is a lot of money that's put out every year to keep those things going, but I just can't imagine getting off of I-5 and heading east on Ben Holt and not seeing that as I'm driving. I mean, that's part of what makes that neighborhood so nice. That's part of one of the things that makes our city nice is that we do have these facilities.
It is, and you could maybe look at a possibility. What I think what happened in this instance is they put the cart before the horse. They didn't present a plan. They just came forward with an idea. And if you refined a bit more, like, what if you put together a 9-hole golf course? A lot of people don't have the time for 18 holes anymore. What if you put together a 9-hole course that's got some mixed use and some residential and some a variety of things that would be a boost to the region, not something that's a hard, heavy impact. So I'm looking for more than just the idea of
Exactly.
we're going to take out the park and do a development. Like, well, what's it look like? What's that? What's the development plan?
Yeah, well, and there certainly is a lot more to be brought out with that, and I think they are. I mean, that's what it sounds like. I think John Alita mentioned at the last meeting that, don't be surprised if we're coming back to you with more questions and more things to look at.
Right.
So, yeah, that story still has a lot to it.
Yeah, and I know that Lincoln Unified, which is part of my district, and that they need to be engaged. What is the plan? They were kind of caught off guard. This is going forward. This is being talked about, but nobody had talked to them yet.
Well, that's what I thought too. Is that it seems like they should have made that call beforehand and at least gotten their input.
Yeah, so a little bit better plan and a little bit better presentation. I think I'm sure it's not a done issue in the community.
No,
so so let's see what happens. But my thought on it is you need some more engagement and a little bit more refining of what's possible.
And I do know that Supervisor Miller and Council Members Loftus and Wright will be hosting a town hall. The date, it'll be in January, and the date of which is yet to be determined, but those three public officials will be hosting a town hall.
Oh, great.
And the topic will be Swenson Park. There will be a variety of opinions being discussed, and of course the public will be invited to attend and share their concerns as well. And I know this particular show will be broadcast before that date, and I will inform the audience as to when that meeting is actually going to be held. And if Supervisor Patti, if you can attend, that would be great too.
Excellent.
But I'll get that to your scheduler as well.
Yeah, I look forward to it. So that's good, and that's what we need to do in a community. It's evolving. Everything's changing. I mean, at one point there was no development north of March Lane. At one point there wasn't much development north of downtown Stockton, which was the metropolis of northern central California. So things change, and there's evolution, but it needs good planning.
Exactly, and that's what I think the City Council is committed to doing, as well as other policymakers locally here. They want to hear what the people, how they feel on this subject and others.
Yeah, which I think is appropriate.
Sure. And as we come to a close on the year, Supervisor Patti, we're almost 3 weeks away from the year of your inauguration as county supervisor.
Yes.
What are I asked Mr. Blauer what his top three favorite accomplishments of his public service in a deliberative body were. So far, you're 25% done of your 4-year term.
Yes.
You're a year complete. What are your top three issues that you're that you're happiest about?
I can tell you right now that during the holiday season, I have made sure that every single department has candy canes available to all the public that walk in the door. It's been an initiative that I felt strong. I campaigned on it, and I was adamant that we have candy canes available, small ones, not big ones, so there are less cavities.
Well, it's too bad that Moses Appian ran on an anti-candy cane platform. That's probably what killed his chances.
Well, and it's funny, if you try to look back on any given week, let alone a year, you're just full of issues and topics, and some that you hadn't anticipated on a campaign trail. A marijuana initiative is not something I would have anticipated or wanted or campaigned on, but it lands on your lap and you have to deal with it. So those are things that I appreciate, that we have a great board to work for me to work with, or that I have the pleasure to work with. I'm learning all the time. Supervisor Miller is outstanding. Working with our recent chair, Chuck Wynn, has been a fantastic chair for my first year. Bob Elliott's great. Miguel Villapudua. I mean, this guy is so active in his community. He's got community centers. He's got community outreach. He's formed and put together neighborhood watch programs that have never existed in some of his areas. So I appreciate a great deal the supervisors that I'm working with. We all take our job seriously. We're engaged, and
it seems to be a cohesive unit. There's no drama. There's no backbiting. There's no melodrama. There are no problems that you see that you might see in other localities and other parts of the state, like the state legislature or Congress.
Yeah, it's not divisive at all. We're great. So I enjoy that part of it more than anything. It's just tackling issues. I mean, looking at, we were able to get through some revisions that hadn't happened since the mid-'60s, but our purchasing department, and we did something more favorable to local vendors. So those details are being ironed out, but I had brought that to the attention and a couple of ideas to our purchasing department, and they took the ball and ran with it and did some revisions and came back to the board with some suggestions that will be evolving and changing and ever present and mindful of the fact that we need to help local vendors and promote local hire. They say for every dollar you spend here locally in any particular project and hiring, that dollar turns over 7 times in your community. So it really does. If you get these initiatives that promote local hire and local vendor preferences, not to forsake and cost more, but a price match. And if you're within, let's say you're within 5%, this was my idea and what they came back with, but let's say if you're within 5%, you're a local vendor and your competition is an out-of-town vendor from outside of this region, you now have the opportunity to match that low bid.
Oh,
Not spend more money to give it to the local vendor, but that local vendor has the opportunity to match the low bid and get a shot at it. If maybe you missed the bid by $180,000, but you can cut $180,000, match that low bid, and the money stays local.
Now, is this a new policy?
It's a new policy of the purchasing department. So there's things like that you're like, you kind of appreciate that you're able to be involved with that dialogue and some of those actions that will make a difference.
And of course, the wine ordinance, which is going to help our economy grow here in San Joaquin County.
Wine ordinance was something I campaigned and spoke about, and when I first got elected, I immediately set forth, it was like, when is this up for review and what can we do to make it more business friendly? And when it came about in August, myself and my fellow supervisors took a look at it. What's more business friendly? What's less restrictive? What maximizes potential and opportunity? And we made some changes in that ordinance that will benefit jobs.
And don't forget, you're taking action on lead candy, eliminating lead in candy and other food items that are sold here in San Joaquin
We have
County.
to make certain that there's stiff penalties for anybody. And also on that note, we just had a conversation of the Public Works. The people that do dumping,
illegal
dumping, why is that not a $10,000 fine? Let's make it real prohibitive, and let's maybe give a $1,000 reward. You see somebody dumping, here's a $1,000 reward for reporting that person.
An incentive to
that $500 fine 25, 30 years ago isn't as impacting and as much of a deterrent. Let's make it a $5,000. Let's make it a $10,000 fine. If you're dumping mattresses and dumping garbage somewhere, and there's regular places that it's going, hey, let's start to drop the hammer on them.
The county landfill's open, and it's very affordable.
Very affordable. So there's things that you have that kind of dialogue, and let's have an impact. Let's let the 99.999% of the good citizens shouldn't have to live with blight because just a few bad actors are dumping off their trash, garbage, old mattresses, and broken furniture.
Well, that's good. Is there anything, Mr. Blauer, as we wrap up our show, that you would like to add? You're our last guest for 2017. Anything you would like to add after everything we've already discussed?
Well, I'd like to say I enjoyed being here. This has been a fun conversation. I appreciate all that you do for the community, Tom, and the good-natured ribbing that you take at Rotary. I will say one of my fun duties at Rotary this year, I'm the song leader.
Yeah.
And after the marijuana vote,
I show for Rotary, and guess what his song selection is?
Tell us.
Puff the Magic
Dragon.
So thank you for being here, or for letting me be here, and good seeing both of you.
Absolutely.
I hope you guys have
Mr. Blauer.
very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, buddy, keep doing all the really good, positive things you're doing. It makes a difference. It really does. And I appreciate being a fellow Rotarian with you. And Ted, thank you. Governor Don, your outstanding influence, impact, and participation and promotion of what you're doing, buddy. Thank you. Keep it up. Let's have a great, rocking 2018.